Hey guys, one quick thing before we get the show started. We are doing a live show January 10th here in Los Angeles, and we want you to come. We'll have a bunch of guests from this year's show. It's going to be super fun. We'll have a Q&A, and then at the very end, we'll all be able to hang out and meet each other and get to know each other a little bit better. So it's going to be great. Tickets are free, but there is a limited number of seats available. So if you want to learn more, go to justshootitpod.com/live and get your ticket. See you on January 10th. Hello, welcome to the 90th episode of Just Shoot It, a podcast about filmmaking, storytelling, and directing. I'm Matt Enlow.
And I'm Oren Kaplan, and today we are catching up and catching down. We're going to talk about December in Hollywood, the end of the year, what happens when things wind down, and what our strategies are for this time of year, because it's really different than the rest of the year.
Yeah, we're going to get a little introspective, so grab yourself a warm cup of hot cocoa and get ready for the nesting episode of Just Shoot It.
But before you finish that cocoa, you must hear what Matt has been up to lately.
Yeah, man. So I'm on a job. It's so funny. We're talking about how, in the rest of the episode, about how we were planning on not working at all in December and January and stuff, and what you do at that time and how you wrap your head around it. And I am like, just kind of got these last minute surprise jobs all of a sudden. And one of them is heavily improv. I do a lot of improv in my directing. I'm shooting 2 cameras almost always. This one is going to be like a 4-hour long broadcast.
Can I ask you, I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second.
Yeah.
Just going to get right into the juice of it. When you have people improvise on set, how often are you using their improvised dialogue? Because I find that I use it like 5 to 10% of the time.
Well, it kind of depends on how much it's built around it. You know, I'll use it a decent amount. I will use my own improv all the time.
What do you mean? Like if
like
you
all throw an alt out? Yeah. It basically, if a joke lands and it sticks in your head and the script team makes a note of it, it'll probably make it in. Yeah.
Okay. I guess I think like, especially in, I've been doing a little more like the 30-second variety of things lately.
Oh,
and
yeah. Never mind.
You just can't shove anything that's not essential in there. And by the time we're shooting, usually all the non-essential stuff has been removed from the script.
Well, I think with a little bit of experience, you kind of learn what things can be improvised and what things really have to be very specific. So in a 30-second spot, I think that there's room for improv in finding different takes or alting certain things. So like a button or a reaction and things like that. The setup is almost always going to need to be consistent, just because typically there's a lot of client input on that sort of stuff. And, just from a timing perspective, being able to have a clean setup is the best way for you to have a little bit of flexibility in your punchline. But yeah, in more sketchy things, or like, in the Go 90 show, that's 8.5 hours. There's a ton of improv. There's a ton.
Right. And that was more of like almost soft scripting, right?
We had a script, but we didn't have a ton of workshopping time with it. And so we were finding new things all the time. Everybody was super funny, and like the majority of the writers were also performing in the show. So it gave us the latitude to change the script and not hurt anyone's feelings or like ask permission from anyone.
I'm asking because I'm pitching right now in a comedy dialogue commercial, which is, as many of you know, comedy dialogue is a genre of commercial. And something I always write in those treatments is we'll get actors that really know how to improvise, and we will get all the hilarity of the script that has been written by you genius creative directors, or genius copywriters, but also we'll have them improvise some other things and get even more funny stuff. And then we get to set, and usually on any commercial job with a client, they want so many options that to add improv as another layer on top of it ruins it. So for instance, I just did a shoot a couple weeks ago where this guy teleports in from the future. And so we wanted to do a version for visual effects where when he teleports in, we have like an actual light shining on him, in a version where we don't have the light shining on him. But we wanted him to come in with 3D glasses on because he's coming from the future. But the client thought it might be too silly, so let's do a version without the 3D glasses on. So we already have 4 versions of this script. And then there were performance tweaks. And so at some point, if you add improv on top of that, you have to shoot like 32 versions of each angle.
Yeah, all of a sudden it just becomes this huge snowball. I mean, I think improv is really, it's dangerous, right? Like I always joke, Judd Apatow really messed it up for all of us because those guys will shoot for, they'll shoot 2 pages a day. They'll have 16 cameras rolling, and like Jonah Hill secretly got like a back catalog of jokes up his sleeve because he has writers working with him.
Right. But you find out
allegedly, I'm not, I don't want to slander Jonah Hill.
No, everyone has people helping them be funny. But you find out that shows like The Office or Veep are not improvised. And it's like, oh, it feels so improvised. Or Modern Family, like those shows that have kind of that improv-y feel.
Sure.
That probably comes from like the Judd Apatow school of how movies feel. But it's not improvised. So I don't know. I think improv is like, I know I'm totally derailing the conversation, but I think in the commercial world, it's like a tool used to sell yourself as like someone that can work with improvisers because people love the sound of it. But in reality, when you get to set, it's like 95% the script, 5% improv. Or the improv comes out a little bit more in exactly like what you're saying, reaction shots or people finding more comedy in the situation than is scripted. And maybe you could consider that improv as well.
Right. Well, I think, we talk sometimes about a fun run or a wild take. And I think that whether you use that footage or not, basically you shoot everything until you got it in the can. Everyone feels really confident with the state of the piece. And then you'll save another 10 or 15 minutes at the end to just like do the crazy take, right? Where you don't worry about the script and you really go off the rails. And when I was doing that stuff with Kim Peele, that was always a real treat. Like the fun run with those guys, it was just like, oh, they're going to go insane. Great. And I think that it's hard to say how much of it really makes it into the show, but it does set a tone for the cast and crew that there's a level of unpredictability and fun that is really nice to foster on your set. So,
right. And also you're telling the actors that you value their creativity.
Yeah.
That they're not just like a puppet.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. So you're... so it's the end of the year. You're doing a very improvised show. Am I allowed to say that it's a 4-hour show?
Yeah, it's a 4 hour. So the name of the game is really just like, can we find people who know how to vamp and take a set of beats and really turn it into something big? And so setting up the auditions for it in itself were very strange and kind of like it was hard to wrap your head around because it's like just even briefing the talent on like, this is the world we're in. These are the rules. This is the situation. Just getting them ready and briefed on how this would work became a little job unto itself. So I ended up, as the day evolved, I got like my spiel became very clear of like, this is how I'm going to explain everything to everyone. And then towards the end, I started giving them kind of specific things to react off of. So you just saw this, or like, this is the way the world works. And, how would you deal with this or that? And it's weird because of the 4-hour nature, you're looking for different things in a performer than you're used to with a commercial spot or something like that.
You want someone that has a very large bladder and doesn't need to pee a lot.
Yeah. Well, we are going to cut here and there, but I didn't do a ton. This is interesting. I didn't do a ton of redirecting because I knew that I wasn't really going to be able to do that too much on set.
But you're going to, you'll be able to direct, but not redirect.
Exactly. So right. I was casting much more off of essence than I normally do. I normally like to let an actor play and I have test those boundaries and make sure that they can respond to what I'm saying in a really clean way. But this time around, I didn't do that so that I knew that their take and their essence and their vibe was the thing that I was casting in the first place. Because I knew, in hour 3, I can tell someone a bunch of times, no, play it more grounded. But if they don't come in with that mindset, I don't have the time or the facilities even really to course correct the way I normally would in a single cam sort of environment.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I told you my wife used to be on these hidden camera shows on MTV on a show called Disaster Date, another show called Jerks with Cameras, and they were hidden cameras, so you really couldn't redirect, but you could kind of push a certain thing, like kind of keep pushing in certain directions. And so on Disaster Date, she was going on these blind dates with people that did not know they were on a TV show. And at the end of each episode, when it was revealed to them, the director would run out and try to pick up missing moments. And I think that I found it really interesting because a big part of what the director is doing is they're writing down as the day progresses, they're missing pieces that they can tell the story with. And they know when they're done, here, I need this shot, this shot, this shot, this line, this line, this line, and my story that I had in mind works. And so I wonder if that'll be a type of thing, that might be useful for you.
I'll be able, because everyone's in the know, that no one's surprised that the cameras are rolling, I'll be able to do that a little bit more in the moment.
Right. Or because at least when you guys cut, you can pick up some stuff.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. I don't want to try and wait till the end to pick up all of the things, because then people will be confused about where we are, and like continuity would be a big issue, things like that. So,
well, you know what I say, fuck continuity.
It's a little harder when it's a live to tape.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding.
But I feel that same way as well. So I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah, and when that shoots in 2 days.
It does shoot in 2 days.
So by the time this podcast is out, it will have already broadcast.
But we're not literally doing it live. We'll do it live to tape and then broadcast it later. So I think it actually comes out next year. I'm not sure.
Cool.
But Oren, enough
Yes.
about me. What have
Yes.
you been working out lately?
Well, as you know, because I can't stop talking about it, I was in Miami the other day visiting some people, and an opportunity presented itself to me. I don't want to tell you why, but I, for some unfilm related reason, had a lot of cash in my pocket, and somebody I know was selling a drone for a very little amount of money.
So just, your regular sort of day where you're in Miami, you've got a pocket full of $1,000, and someone's like, yo, you want a drone?
Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, I got this drone. I can't return it. I threw the box away. And I start researching everything. I'm like, oh my God, he's selling it to me for half the price. And so I text everyone I know in LA, hey, every DP, hey, you think you'd ever need a drone for $50-$100 a day? I text production company people I know. I'm basically trying to make the money back that I'm about to spend on the drone and convince my wife that it's a smart idea. Anyway, I bought this drone. It's the DJI Phantom 4 Pro. It's not a pro drone, but it's the top level consumer drone.
Right.
It's got, Casey Neistat has this vlog that he does a comparison between the Spark and the Mavic and the Phantom and the Inspire, the whole line of drones that this company DJI makes. And he kind of said the Mavic is shooting on an iPhone. Mm-hmm. The Phantom, which is the one I got, is shooting on a nice point and click camera. And then the Inspire, which is their top one, that has its own camera, is shooting on a 5D.
Right. Wait, so which one did you get? You got the nice
the Phantom.
You got the point and shoot?
Yeah, the point and shoot. So it's nicer than shooting on an iPhone, but so the sensor is an inch big. And it's funny because I haven't cared about these stats, or the thing I was thinking about is I haven't cared about trying to make video look like film for such a long time. I used to be obsessed with it, right?
Sure.
10 years ago when I was first getting into this.
It was the thing that made our careers feasible back then, right?
Yeah. And then these cameras came out, did 24p and all that stuff. But nowadays, most of the cameras we shoot on are the same, Aries.
You don't even think about it.
Right. Alexas or Reds or whatever. And the same cameras that Hollywood people are shooting their movies on. So we don't care. But now that all of a sudden I have gear again.
Yeah. You haven't been prosumer in a while.
Yeah. So there's all these really interesting things like shutter speed, which you never think of. The shutter speed is how many times we are reading the information off the sensor per second. Sorry, not how many times. How long we are exposing the sensor to light. Mm-hmm. And it's measured in thousandths of a second. So a shutter speed of 500 is 1/500th of a second.
Right.
That number becomes really important with drones because there's all these tiny vibrations in the wind and everything that they're flying in. The faster your shutter speed is, the kind of sharper the movements are, the more video it feels.
It looks, yeah.
And so you really want your shutter speed to be low, the kind of general rule in photography is your shutter speed should be about twice your frame rate. So if you're shooting 24 frames per second, which is what we do in film,
Right.
you want your shutter speed to be around 48 or 50.
Yeah, that's kind of the golden ratio.
Right. And so to get that shutter speed, you're always shooting a drone during the day. It's actually legally, you can't fly drones at night. You can't fly drones without having a line of sight to them. And you can't fly drones over people. And to do any of those three things, you have to get a permit. Otherwise, you don't need a permit. And, there's obviously a lot of rules like parks and
Sure.
LA city parks don't allow you to fly drones and stuff. But you're flying in like bright sunlight, right? And so to get a 50th shutter is really hard because it's really slow, which means a ton of light is coming to the sensor. So this is something I didn't know at all.
Blown out. Interesting.
But ND filters are like the number one accessory you need for drone, which, it's like a filter you put on your lens to lower the amount of light that comes in. Anyway, all this like tech stuff.
You haven't cared about it in a long time.
Yeah, it can get really boring, but I all of a sudden getting really obsessed with it.
Yeah, that sounds really
with
fun.
this, and I'm watching like a zillion YouTube videos on like cinematic drone shots. But the takeaway here is that, I think it's really fun to be inspired by new tech and gadgets and things. And it doesn't have to be camera gear. It could be like you watch 13 Reasons Why and you're inspired by like a new storytelling format, right? Or you watch, like I watched American Vandal, and I'm like, oh, this show, sci-fi, like mutant power show I'm pitching would be really cool to shoot doc style, like American Vandal. Not that it hasn't been done before, and not that like not everyone was doing found footage, like 5 years ago, but now all of a sudden, I don't know, it's exciting to me again because I was inspired. So in that same regard, like having this drone has inspired me to want to shoot aerials, right?
Sure.
And trying to think and film. And I mean, sorry, I'm talking a lot.
No.
I want to hear your input too. Because
I love drones.
Because you also were like, oh, thank God you didn't call me or else I would have probably chipped in for half that drone.
Yeah, I literally, DJI was running a Christmas sale. So like I was looking at those same exact videos you were looking at the day you bought it. Yeah.
So I basically, in my mind, I haven't actually shot anything except for a test video, which I sent Matt the other day just in my own backyard.
Looks pretty good.
Thanks. I didn't have my ND filters at the time.
Yeah.
But I was trying to think like where in like a production that I'm doing would this be useful? And I mean, number one, most obvious is like establishing shots. I want to get like a nice aerial establishing shot of a house. And it doesn't even have to be that high, but even just like flying across the street into a house, you can get a Steadicam, but you need like a real Steadicam with a Steadicam operator that can be like $500 to $1,000. Probably not worth it for an establishing shot. So you'll probably end up just using a slider or something. If you want a dolly, you can't really cross the street with that unless you're closing down the street and blocking it. So it's like one of those things where you can get kind of these cool shots you normally couldn't. And you can also get these really great reveals where you see like a city skyline and you basically jib down to reveal a location or a person or a vehicle. And then, secondarily, but much more difficult is like tracking shots, like somebody running on a sidewalk and you want to get a profile shot of them running, or a car is driving. But those are much more like style shots than like storytelling shots. You can't tell a story.
I mean, there's transitional shots and stuff. And I guess, it depends on the piece. The thing that's funny to me and the reason I keep thinking about drones is because when you're on a job with any sort of budget, no matter what the scale is, the things that like when times get tight, you look at what can you cut. And a drone with a operator and his permits and his insurance or her insurance, drones are always portal to portal. So their day starts as soon as they leave their front step, as soon as they leave the rental house or whatever, it gets expensive fast. And so
right, and then the producer comes to you and says, like, so what do we need the drone for?
Yeah,
and you're like,
and then
well,
you're
it'd
like,
be a
well,
cool establishing
for
shot.
2 cool shots
Yeah.
is always the answer because you don't use a ton of drone footage, but it does make things really premium. And so...
And then Eben says, well, how important are those 2 shots? Couldn't you just do that on a jib?
I mean, and the answer is like, yeah, and I'm not going to cut my jib because I really want it. I've never shot drone footage before, and I can think of 4 times where like it was budgeted out. We had a guy on my Black Pill show. We had the drone there.
What? Why didn't you shoot it? You ran out of time?
Time, yeah.
Dude, I've been in that. I have never had the drone there, but I've been in that situation so many times where everyone, it's like, we're doing this awesome skate video at the skate park. Obviously, we get a drone, right?
Yeah.
Nope, got cut. Like I did this Miss 2059, dude. All these desert shots on top of these giant rocks at the Vasquez Rocks. They want some sort of permit. Let's just cut the drone. You know?
Yeah, totally. To be fair, the Black Pill Show, our art director, who is dope on the side, is a drone operator. So he brought it up with him at no extra charge. If we had flown it, of course, we would have paid him for his time, all of that stuff. So it wasn't quite as literal as like there's the guy who's sitting there waiting with the joystick in his hand. But
right. Well, so this drone is, like I said, it's a prosumer drone and not, it's like a consumer drone and not a pro drone. And so I guess kind of the main differences is that I see, and again, I am by far from being an expert, I've only watched a lot of videos, is that a real pro drone, well, aside from the fact that it might lift up your Alexa or your Red camera or whatever, the biggest differentiator to me is there's two operators. Somebody's flying the drone and someone is operating the camera, like the pan and tilt on the camera. With a consumer drone like mine, one person is doing both of those.
Right.
So because of that, you really, really, really have to plan out your shots. You can't be like, oh, let's just get some awesome shots, which is something I've done with this. Like when I first got Steadicam operators, I'd be like, I don't know, just like run around her or something.
Yeah. And then they're like, oh, what about this? And then they show you something awesome because that's their stock and trade.
Shots, yeah. But with the drone, since you don't have, especially if you're doing your own thing, you got to really plan out your shots. And there's a lot of really great videos on YouTube that are like 8 cinematic drone shots.
Right.
And it's, do you remember those books? I think I own one of them. I used to always look at them at Barnes and Noble. It's like basically a book of like 100 film shots, like cinematic shots.
Oh no, that's kind of neat though.
You know, it's like this shot reveals a scary person. You must have seen these books.
No, I don't know these books. And I spent a lot of time in Barnes and Noble. Actually, I was a Borders kid, but that's just because of
film
geography.
I think it's literally called like film shots. It's called Shot by Shot. No. Oh yeah, it's called Master Shots.
Yeah, I have Shot by Shot, and I bought it at the Borders.
Literally, it's like a really wide book. It looks like this. Master Shots, and then like if you look inside, it's just different like fight scenes. So it just shows you how to block your camera.
I've never seen these books before.
Oh, they're great. They're like if you ever need to get inspired, like how to shoot something in an interesting way.
That's great.
Yeah, and it's like if someone is down on the floor, here's 2 angles that are effective, and this is how you would. Here's the dolly move to get them there. Anyway, so that's kind of my new thing with drone shots. Is I kind of want to just go shoot a short film that is not only drone shots, but
but use them,
and then also kind of embrace this idea that not all your shots have to be from the Alexa. You know, that it's okay to have an establishing shot that's like on a different camera.
Yeah.
And what's cool about all these new cameras, I think the Mavic, all the drones have it. You can shoot in log gamma, which means, you know, that your exposure is really flat and you can color correct things. And I'm not going to say you can match it to like an Alexa perfectly, but you can get into the same zone where it's not going to bug you going from an establishing shot to a dolly shot.
To me, the color profile is the most important thing with matching. I guarantee all of the big budget movies, you'll see a GoPro shot in there. And if you're paying attention, like you'll catch it. But like every Marvel movie has one. Fury Road is filled with them. And
all the action movies, and I'm sure the John Wicks and like all those,
Yeah, totally. And no one is ever like, well, I was so in it, and then all of a sudden there was a GoPro shot and I got taken out of it. Like, it's fine. And I think for people like us, having those 2 drone shots and being able to just, pull it out of your backpack and do it real quick while everyone's at lunch or something, and adding that extra premium level to your videos, especially when those videos are probably going to be mastered to 1080 and they're not going to be seen in a movie theater. It's like a cool internet video or a commercial spot or whatever. All of that stuff just gives you that leg up.
Right. And by the way, all these drones shoot in 4K. So that's the one thing that helps you get around the fact that you can't change the lens, is you can kind of zoom in and post.
And you can stabilize things a little bit more. And,
Dude, these freaking built-in stabilizers
are incredible.
Out of control. Yeah. Anyway, there was an earthquake while I was flying my drone. You didn't even see it in the shot. Actually, I wonder if you're flying a drone and there's an earthquake, if the ground does shake because your drone isn't shaking with the ground.
Right? That'd be crazy.
Yeah. Anyway, I guess I should just fly it and wait for an earthquake.
The other takeaway, I think, beyond just the drone-specific talk, which I could get into forever, that I like about this, though, is that this is another version of you rediscovering an aspect of filmmaking that would get you excited that you hadn't really explored in a while. Like, I think it's totally reasonable to be inspired by a new toy and let that be a thing that, sparks something new. And that's not a thing that you'd cared about because you'd kind of been working with more or less all of the toys for kind of a while. I think just acknowledging that like that's an aspect of your personality is interesting in the same way that watching movies is, or, just kind of like digging in on a script. Kind of get back to your roots, man. It's cool.
Yeah, I did used to really be inspired by tech stuff and gadgets in my filmmaking, and I've kind of forgotten that, and I'm excited to bring it back.
Yeah. I'm excited to crash your drone.
Oh, I've already crashed it twice. So ain't no thing. I actually got new propellers today in the mail because mine were pretty banged up.
Yep.
Well, cool. Well, let's get into the show. So, Matt, we are recording this on December 4th. By all measures, we have almost a complete month left of 2017.
Correct.
To go shoot commercials, music videos, write series, pitch things, talk to people. Sure, there's a holiday, Christmas Eve is off, Christmas is off, and I don't know if even New Year's Eve is an official holiday.
It's not technically. Yeah, New Year's Day is the holiday.
There's only 2 official holiday days left,
right?
But for all intents and purposes, past this week, it's awfully hard to get anything going in this town.
Yeah. Just as a side note, all of those holidays, whether they're official or not, if you check rental houses, oftentimes those houses are closed for, New Year's Eve or Christmas Eve, things like that, or sometimes even the whole week.
You're talking about gear rental.
Gear rentals, exactly. So just like a one-day rental on a weekend, if you pick something up on a Friday, you turn it in on the Monday, you're paying for one day worth of rentals, even though it's multiple days. On holidays, that holds true as well. So you can get, depending on what the rental hours are for those rental houses, you can get a real deal.
Right, like pay for one day and keep equipment for like 5 days.
Yeah, if you want to shoot on Christmas.
Yeah, hey, lots of us non-Christian people in Hollywood.
Don't mind, yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess that kind of segues us perfectly into what I always think about this year, which is December is like my time to
do something weird, get into it. Tier 1.
Tier 1, exactly. My passion projects. It's time to write. Obviously, a lot of it is like, it's funny. It's like ever since high school, I'm like, after this break, I'm going to come back. I'm going to just be the coolest guy in the world. So a lot of it is like that type of thing where it's like, okay, January 1st. I mean, it's like the New Year's resolutions start like December 1st because like we've said before, after Thanksgiving, nothing new really happens in Hollywood. And so it's already our time to figure things out. Is that your experience as well? Like, what's your plan for the
100%.
winter? You have a shoot on Thursday, and then what?
I have a shoot on Thursday, and then I have another shoot for 3 days next week.
Oh, okay. Show off.
Yeah, no. What's funny about it is that maybe I even said this on the show already, so stop me if I have. But I mentally had been prepared to. These last 2 jobs were kind of came up last minute. And so I know that I'm not going to be working a ton. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll go ahead and do these things. A little extra money, a little Christmas time. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to be working much. I had mentally prepared to be in my pajamas writing until spring. Basically, it's kind of where I was at.
You wearing pajamas?
Yeah. I mean, it's cold.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a onesie that I wear.
It's TMI.
Hey, well, whatever, man. It's quite comfy. And it also, the nice thing about it is it says, hey, like you're in snuggly mode.
Yeah.
Sure. It's great. I remember hearing that Jason Segel would put on like a Muppet costume when he was like a Muppety costumey onesie when he was writing the Muppet movie, and his writing partner was like always so weirded out by it, and he would say that it made him feel Muppety.
Yeah, I could see that. That is one of the things I would like to do next year in my writing is try to get like a little more in character, you know? Like instead of just researching things on Google, I'd like to like talk to people that have gone
Do a little bit
things,
of research, that sort of
like
stuff.
real life research.
Yeah.
You know, and just try to go beyond something. I was actually going to say this in my unpaid endorsement, but I might as well talk about it now because it's relevant. You know, the Every Frame of Painting is officially over.
Sure.
One of our favorite YouTube channels. So him and his wife, I think, Tony Zhu and Taylor, his partner in making Every Frame of Painting, they talked about how the way that they came up with original ideas and thoughts was by going to the public library. Did you read that article?
I did, yeah. And I was like, oh man, I don't need to worry about this one because Oren's got it endorsed already for sure.
Yeah, sorry. And obviously I saw it because Andy Young, one of our listeners and friends, posted it on Facebook. But I just found that really fascinating. He's like, look, if you just Google search stuff, you'll find the same things that everyone else found.
Right. And the same regurgitated information over and over again, which I think is pretty astute.
And so how do we break out of that? Like Pinterest is just Google regurgitated in a different way, right? And so it's like, and Twitter and all these things are just linking to themselves. So I really am trying to figure out how to go beyond, like these laptops and computers we have make it so easy for us to be creative without leaving our bedrooms. Like I want to like force myself to go outside and be inspired by the world.
I love that idea. And also that's actively what I was aiming to avoid with my onesie.
Yes. I think you will accomplish it.
Yeah. Just like staying at home and just like digging in and, you know, kind of exploring the projects that I haven't had time to foster quite as closely. You know, I think everyone can relate to being busy and to having other ideas, whether you're writing full time or directing full time or you have a day job. We all know what it's like to, you know, have that little itch of a side project and want to do it, but for whatever reason, kind of ignore that impulse. And we're both living proof that exploring those crazy ideas, or just like, you know, the Every Frame of Painting team, you know, exploring those impulses is what leads to a more creatively fulfilling life, but also most often better career opportunities. You know?
For sure. Like even just buying that dumb drone, I like, you know, just flew it in my backyard for 15 minutes and I edited a video out of it and I sent it to like 10 people. Yeah. And it's not good and it doesn't, those people aren't going to make my career, but I made something and I sent it out, which is like it's not an accomplishment for someone that does that every day, but I don't. And so I think, there's some value there in just making things. But
there's an exercise in doing something stupid.
Yeah. Well, how do you like force yourself to work when everyone else is on vacation?
Real talk.
Yeah.
This was true when I had a day job as well. I have an alarm clock that goes off every morning at 5:55, and it says you're going to die someday.
That's what your alarm name is?
Yeah.
You're going to die someday? Not you're going to die someday.
Well, it's shifted a little bit, but it's always some sort of message like that. Yeah,
some death threat.
Right now it says, nothing has changed. You're still going to die.
Okay.
And that's like that's a very morbid sort of thought. But the point is, the message is quite uplifting in that it's like, use the time that you have, right?
Dude, this is why you got to get an iPhone 10. Because the previous iPhones, you can just turn off your alarm with your finger or your thumbprint or whatever. The new iPhone, you have to look at it.
Well, yeah, look at it and be faced with death every morning.
Yeah. Okay. So has this helped you, or do you just ignore it, or is it just
help
like
me? Oh my God! Yeah,
to talk
yeah.
about on podcasts?
No. I would not have Squaresville without that alarm system. That's for sure true.
So what does that mean to you?
It kind of, it was inspired by Steve Jobs realized that he was going to die someday, well before the whole cancer thing. But like it kind of was in the zeitgeist after he passed away. And that was kind of around the time when I was like, oh yeah, that's true. I'm going to. And like it's just is a reminder that you don't have time to waste.
Right. So
do the thing you want to do. And so waking up early, getting your butt down and like typing before you're getting emails. And I think there's a lot of studies about like people are a little bit more creative in the morning or late at night, kind of depending on what your cycles are like. I'm a morning person. So like getting up before the sun rises, before my wife's awake, before I'm making breakfast means that I'm kind of just jump starting my day and then I don't feel bad about myself later if I don't write in the evening.
So did you wake up today at 5:55?
6:20, I hit the snooze alarm.
It's a couple snoozes. So what did you do at 6:20?
I wrote,
you faced death.
Yeah, I was reminded of death. I made coffee. You know, I've talked about the reason I like to have a ritual. It's like, you know, you need to wake up a little bit. I used Freedom, which was a recommendation from a Melissa Hunter. That was her unpaid endorsement way back then, which keeps you off of Facebook and any other distracting websites that you want to block out. I delivered a new draft of a pilot to my manager today.
What?
Yeah.
What, hour? Half hour?
Half hour.
Comedy,
yeah.
Wow. And you just wrote it this morning?
No, I finished it this morning. But I think, the nice thing about having gigs you have to get to is like, knock it out. You got to knock it out before you leave in the morning, basically.
Wow. Well, I'm jealous.
Well, you're going to die someday, Oren, so.
I woke up at 2 a.m., at 4 a.m., and at 6 a.m. None of them work related.
It is a different deal when you have a kid, for sure.
Yes, sick kids. Apparently, no one tells you this, but the first 2 years that your kid is in any sort of school, they're sick like the entire time, which means that you get sick, your spouse gets sick. It's really testing my whole world.
Yeah, it is, I will say it is easier in a sense to wake up and get the things you need to get done before you have to go to work, because you have that pressing sort of time frame. If I didn't have anything to do today, or rather I had a bunch of stuff to do and like no one really holding me accountable to it, like if I wasn't, I had to be at a scout at 9:30 in the morning.
Right.
So like if you don't get out of bed and do the things you need to do before you get to that 9:30 scout, you're in trouble, or you're letting your friends down, like that is a real motivating factor. So we'll see when, these jobs go away if I'm up before sunrise. Probably not. But yeah, also don't beat yourself up over that. We are all like cyclical people, you know what I mean? And so for the same reasons that like you get introspective and you're thinking about things and assessing what you want out of next year, that also means that like your sleep patterns, I think, are going to change a little bit. It's colder. It's easier to stay in bed.
Yeah.
And when I say cold, guys, I mean like 65 degrees.
Yeah.
We haven't turned our heater on yet. That's why I'm wearing my onesie.
Well, all insane information. I guess this time of year, obviously writing is great. Getting inspired is great. But sometimes I wonder about like revisiting my work and maybe recutting my reel, working on my website.
I think January is for new websites.
Okay.
Just cyclically.
I guess
again.
I'll stop working on my website. I guess it made me think, have you ever gone back to a project you've shot before that you thought wasn't edited well and tried to like re-edit it? Or like once you're done shooting a project, if you're not exactly happy with like the final product, have you ever gone back and tried to like get something better out of it?
I will, in some circumstances, do a cut down from like a minute and a half thing to a 60 or something like that. I'll tighten, but you're so much better about you're a much better editor, A, and B, you're better about getting the materials you need, the stems and the project files and the VFX files and all that stuff. So I think it's a little bit easier for you to undo some of that work and kind of tweak things. And so I'm typically just working with a master file. So just kind of from a technical standpoint, that opportunity isn't really there.
I mean, I tend to not go back either, but like the other day I was sitting with my friend Avi. We were talking about fun spec commercials we could shoot. In the back of my head, I was thinking, I've shot all this like amazing footage. I did this whole like awesome like car racing thing on Phantom cameras, like insane slow motion, done this awesome skate video that I did not really like how it ended up being edited, but I have all this like really great footage, like a lot of funny stuff from the Converse things. Like I could go back and probably turn that into some really cool things, but I have this aversion to like looking at old footage, because just shooting new stuff is so much more fun.
Yeah, to me, I think that it's okay to acknowledge that the seductive qualities of like shooting something new and just going out there and getting excited about a new idea and jumping in. I think it's okay to acknowledge that about yourself. And I think that's true for probably almost everybody. So to me, I'm like, don't worry about all that old shit. It either is good or it isn't, and it's fine. It's in the past. I think you should come up with a new stupid idea and go shoot that and do it real fast.
Right. Even though the stupid idea will cost you money and the old stuff will not.
Yeah, but look, you've got a drone. You can borrow a camera. You know a bunch of actors. Like I guarantee that if I was like, here's $50 for lunch, you could come back with a cool thing. And that kind of just shoot it mentality and like the freedom of knowing like, oh, this isn't going to be incredible. And that's not the point. I just want to go make something and like have fun with my friends and like do something that no one would normally let me do or pay me to do. I think is worth exploring. I think that's what December and January are about.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it kind of all wraps back around to the beginning, which is, the just shoot it mentality. When we finally get a chance to slow down and think about where we are and what we're doing and why we're doing it, you kind of come back to like wanting to make stuff that is your own,
Yeah. And I think also it's okay to be like, hey man, I want to hang out with my family for 2 weeks.
Nope. Unacceptable.
But I think it's okay to like reconnect.
You don't have to work, but I think, look, obviously you never have to work, but I think it's healthy actually to like open yourself up at this time of year to inspiration because it's so rare to have the quiet time during the year. And in the middle of the year, it's really stressful if things are quiet. But in December, it's actually kind of peaceful, which as you loyal podcast listeners know, my daughter is named after this time of year because of how peaceful it is here. Well, Matt, one other thing that I think is kind of related to wrapping back around to Just Shoot It is that we are going to have a live show.
A live show, you say?
Yes, I do say. Right now we're looking at the second week of January, but you can find out more about it if you go to justshootitpodcast.com/live show. And we are going to have information about tickets. It's going to be free. And we are going to do a live podcast. We're going to have some awesome guests. And it's going to be really cool. We just thought it would be really awesome to have an opportunity for our listeners to meet each other and to meet some of the previous guests. And we are...
Book your plane tickets now. Book your hotel rooms. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah. Put your reel on your iPad. Bring it by. Maybe,
please don't do that.
Who knows
Please
who you can show it to at the party?
But yeah, for real, it is equal parts live show and also community meetup. So the idea is that
networking event.
Yeah, exactly. So meet some other people who listen to the show, meet us, meet some of your favorite guests, and
we're definitely going to have some people, producers and executives that we have spoken about before. Hopefully come directors, where hopefully all of our favorite people are there. So I think it'll be really worthwhile, and we are honestly trying to gauge how many people will come. So if you go to justshootitpod.com/live show and just sign up for a ticket, then that will be awesome. And I think we'll probably have room for about 40 people.
We'll have a room for a minimum of 40 people. Tickets are free. We have no sense of how many people that live in Los Angeles and how many of you want to come to something like this. So if it becomes an exorbitant amount and there's a ton of people on the wait list, maybe we'll have to figure out another way to accommodate you. But so this is kind of like a little bit of a question. We're gauging your interest and availability. So sign up, let us know, and we can kind of help to find the perfect venue that matches the capacity of this amorphous and incredible fan base that maybe is 2 people or maybe is 1,000. I don't know.
Or maybe it's 5,000, which is my theory. So let's wrap this one up.
Unpaid endorsements.
Oren, hit me with that new unpaid endorsement.
So I have a couple. They're all dumb.
You blew your wad with the every frame of painting one.
Well,
yeah.
I feel like you can't. We've already endorsed Every Frame of Painting. I think endorsing an article about the end of Every Frame of Painting is not really an endorsement.
Yo, I will double down. That article is really good.
Okay, it's good. Check it out. Just look for Every Frame of Painting
On their Medium page, actually. I think.
Yeah, in memoriam, or what do they call it? Postmortem.
Postmortem.
Yeah. So 2 other things, totally trivial, but I have an Apple TV and I have a Samsung TV, and I assume many, many, many people have this. And a producer friend of mine, Joe Price, who I think you're working with right now,
Yeah.
pointed this out to me, and something I never noticed, and it's that Netflix on the Apple TV looks 10 times better than the Samsung TV on the exact same internet connection.
Huh.
So my recommendation, and something that I've started doing, is I use the Apple TV to watch Netflix instead of my Samsung TV. I mean, it's all on my Samsung TV, but I don't use the built-in Netflix app on the Samsung TV. I use the Apple TV.
I wonder how PlayStation 4 compares. That's what I've been using mostly lately.
Do you have an Apple TV?
I do, but we use it so rarely now because we use Amazon Prime and stuff.
Right. Oh, you should compare it, because it is.
That's interesting.
It is a very noticeable difference in quality, streaming speed, everything. So Apple TV, and I don't even have like the 4K one. I just have the previous generation Apple TV. It's awesome. My other thing is, again, I've been writing treatments and things, so I need weird tools to do things very quickly. And something that I used to always use to grab screenshots is a program called Grab. It's comes with the Mac.
Yep. It's a previous unpaid endorsement, I think.
Oh, yeah. That sounds like I might have endorsed it. So you run Grab and then you say capture screen, and you can either click on a window to capture that. You can capture your entire screen, or you can draw a rectangle around the area that you want to capture, which is what I usually. So right now I'm pitching on a commercial, and I wanted to reference a lot of other commercials. So I go to like iSpot TV and YouTube, and I just play the video in like 1080p or whatever, and I'll just pause it on the frame I want. And what I used to do is with Grab, I would draw the rectangle, then I would save the file to my hard drive, then I would drag that file to wherever I need. Anyway, it turns out that everyone probably already knows this, but in the Mac OS system settings, if you go under the keyboard section, there's like shortcuts. And under shortcuts, you can program all these shortcuts for screenshots. So now I have it programmed that if I hit Command 4, the number 4, it immediately shows me like a rectangle tool, and I draw the rectangle. And when I'm done drawing it, it just copies it to my clipboard. So I just draw the rectangle, and then I go paste it wherever I want, in InDesign or Keynote or Word. If I hit Command Shift 4, it saves it as a file, like if I want to do screenshots.
That's interesting.
But it's so fast. So now I'm just like running all over the internet. And I have this, did I tell you with the famous group, the new company I'm working with? They help me do the layout on my treatments. So I just send them a Word document that has all my text and images, but it's not laid out like beautifully. So I'm type stuff like, oh, this thing takes place in an attic. And then I find like there's this awesome DirecTV commercial where a guy like keeps bumping his head on a beam in an attic. So I find that commercial, and then I just like Apple 4, capture it, and paste in my Word doc. Anyway, it's this awesome kind of shortcut that's way faster than what I was doing before.
You know what I like to do is I think it's built in. If you do Command Apple F3 is a screenshot of your entire screen, which is far less elegant than what you're describing.
Yeah,
but
far less.
What I will do,
it's like a onesie compared to a 3-piece pajama.
I know, but I'll play a video rather than, I always have like the worst time pausing and like getting the actual frame that you want. So what I'll do is I'll back it up a little bit, and I'll just spam the F3 key and just hit it as fast as I can as that clip is going, and then pick the image afterwards. Yeah.
That's not a bad idea, because yes, it's sometimes hard to find the exact frame, but also oftentimes if you pause a video, it has the play button in the middle of the screen.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to get it as clean as possible, depends on what player you're using and what browser,
right.
But sometimes that helps too. Also, about Keep Vid. keepvid.com. There's this website, keepvid.com. I don't know how legal it is or whatever, but you put in a URL for a
There's some
YouTube
loopholes, I
video,
think. Yeah.
and you can download the video to your computer.
I just got a new Chrome extension that's like KeepVid, but baked into your...
Well, I have bad news for you. Google Chrome owns Google YouTube, and they've made all of those extensions stop working.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I use it for Vimeo, and it works great.
Well, Vimeo, yeah, that
Yeah,
does
there you
make
go.
sense.
Um,
But yeah, pulling videos,
KeepVid is great for pulling YouTube videos.
yeah, but pulling frames out of videos that you've downloaded just takes a lot longer than just quickly snapping them.
Snapping it, yeah.
But anyway, so that's what I got. What do you got?
So I've got a new podcast and also technically a zine, like it's 1997 up in here, called Desert Oracle. If you go to desertoracle.com, it's a radio show, and like they call them like pocket field guides. And it is a show out and, media outlet out in the Joshua Tree, like in the Mojave basically. And it's about desert culture and philosophy. And it's the best. Like, I've always loved the desert, and Joshua Tree in particular is a pretty kind of kooky space. And the main person and host behind the show, this guy, Ken Lai, I think his name is, has just this incredible, intoxicating voice and like a really cool attitude about the way the natural world integrates in with spirituality and UFOs and the desert and politics, and kind of like a very,
New agey?
new age, but also like a little retro. Yeah, it's like, it's got like funky guitar music in the
like
background.
New Age from when New Age started.
Yeah, exactly. It's a real trip. It's a real delight, and I think genuinely insightful and interesting. It's not heavy on the camp, but still really fun and weird. Or maybe it's super heavy on the camp, and I'm just being too sincere. But anyway, check it out. Make up your own mind. Desertoracle.com. You can get their shows on iTunes and stuff like that. And I really, really love it. It's rad.
Cool. Well, I think that's all we got. Happy holidays, everyone.
You can check out more about this show on justshootitpod.com. You'll have your show notes for all the stuff that we talk about, our unpaid endorsements, on all of that. Just Shoot It Pod. Ewan Williams is our webmaster. He's helping us out. Thanks, Ewan. Killing it. Doing great work. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Just Shoot It Pod, and me at Mr. Matt Enlow.
And me at Smitey Pyleg. And this episode was edited by Jay McAuliffe. And the music was provided by the Free Music Archive and the artist Jahzzar. And please, if you get a chance, give us a rating on iTunes and leave us a review. Helps us a lot. Thanks, guys. Catch you next time.
Thank you.